Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the 10th episode of the Medieval RimWorld series. We begin today riding into Dux's fortress, our group having journeyed long and far to seek the mysterious scroll that lies here. At first, we arrive at the northern gate, seeing a dead soldier and the remains of defensive positions that have laid still for years now. Ryo and Danders would identify this man as Morg after peeking under his helmet. They would also prepare themselves, knowing that whatever's inside the fortress would probably be quite confronting. We will lay Morg and anyone else we find to rest. As soon as the area is safe, we would then move forward into the middle of the fortress. We would come across another dead soldier in the middle square. Once again, he would be identified. This was Michael, the youngest of the soldiers who Dux had here in the camp. It was quite saddening to see that he didn't make it through whatever battle they'd been in. We were stopped, however, when we heard a noise coming from inside the main building of the fortress. Our people would take defensive positions, expecting an enemy to emerge. Nobody came out, however, which would prompt us to rush in with weapons prepared, but it seemed as though the noise had come deeper from within, as nobody was present in the dining hall. Our people would walk through the ruins, entering the room that was once Ryo's bedroom, where today he would behead the haunt guard who threatened to stop him. Laying where Ryo had once rested his head as a child was one of his trainers, Duplat. Valor would also enter the upper bedroom where Dux had once lived, making sure it's clear. While Ryo would carry Duplat in, he had been badly beaten, and we would let him rest here for a while. While all this was going on, Edmund and Ahsoka had inspected the remains of Andri, who will also be buried shortly with the rest of the soldiers who lay dead around the base. Duplat had now woken up and would tell our people that the haunts who were on guard in this place had gone hunting and would likely return shortly, so we should begin to prepare. We would quickly explore the rest of the fortress while the daylight remained to ensure that there aren't any haunts lurking around that could attack us unexpectedly. We found a couple more remains of Templar soldiers in the process. They too will be buried when this is all said and done. As night fell, Edmund would spot the group of haunts returning from their hunting trip, running to tell everyone, giving us an opportunity to get into some defensive positions. We would wait, having the advantage of them not knowing that we're here. When the first entered, 3 of us would cut him down swiftly. Edmund would engage their armor-clad leader, unfortunately failing to execute him. In the middle of the base, Ryo and Danders would cure 1 each, while Duplat went down, probably due to the lack of armor. Their leader would try to kill Valor, but he failed, and decided to attempt to escape. Ahsoka, however, wouldn't allow this, giving Ryo and Danders a chance to come in and kill him. We'd quickly begin tending to our wounded after all the battle had finished. And once everyone was safe again, Duplat would take revenge on the only one of his captors that remained alive. Danders and Ryo would then venture out to the shrine in the woods, finding the parched scroll that Dux had left here. Moving into the bright moonlight, they would read it.
Well, I've waited so very long for this. What does it say, Ryo?
Dear Dux, I wish you luck on the Eastern Front. Stay safe. May God protect you and your men. As we've discussed at length, the bandit leader they know only as Harkin has been sent by the Haunts to unite the bandits and stir trouble. I have information, the likes of which I cannot relay in such a fickle medium. You will need to journey into the Infalor Mountains, northwest facing, heading in from Silver Hearth. I have never been visited in the centuries I've inhabited this planet, so know that this is of great importance. You will find a cave, enter and we will discuss. If all else should fail, Ryo must come in your place. I remember saving him as a child. The look in his eyes was that of the great leaders of a time forgotten by most, but not I. Ryo, if you're reading this, Dux has perished. You are our greatest asset. Come see me and we will complete your training. It's signed, Galerin Milteg.
I don't know this man.
With this revelation, Danders and Ryo would head back to begin planning with the others. A meeting was held by the core group, and after some debate, they decided it would be best to return to the hold for some time, then mount an attack on the bandit-occupied Silver Hearth. This will assist us in finding Kalaring Milteg. The next day, Ryo would be walking around and he found the body of Capri, who had been like an older brother to him. They'd grown up in the same village. He found his adamantite sword, which his father had crafted for Capri when he was younger. He would take it and he would bear it with honor. Now, to respect the dead, our group would expand the graves of the shrine, covering the ground with gravel to prevent nature from creeping in, and we would lay the Templars who had died here to proper rest. Ryo would say a few words and prayers for the dead. It was a rather somber occasion, but it was indeed what we needed to do. This place will remain, although it may be many years before we can return and restore it to its former glory. At that time, we'll pay our true respects to these men. We would then, having taken care of business here, begin our journey home through bandit and haunt-occupied land. And with that, we'll now begin the recap of all the events that have happened while we've been on this journey. Hope you guys enjoy. First of all, I realized I sent Icemore with the caravan rather than Cryos, meaning Bryn will be without Icemore and Danders without Cryos, so I had the group attack a bandit camp nearby to finish a little quest we had to assist House Roxmont. During that, we had Bryn meet them out there with Cryos to swap dragons before they both head in opposite directions. As Bryn arrived back at the base, we accepted a quest from the Empire to have a couple of groups of warriors from the Onlastia Empire attack us in exchange for another Sapphire Wand and a Masterwork Steel Hammer. We got some more gold from our settlement that I decided to name after Mart. It's now known as Marriott Vale Mines. But the Muffalo decided to leave our gold right next to the gigantic spider, which Bryn just walked right past. Okay. Robert would become a child, and if you have a name for him, one would be much appreciated. I'm not the biggest fan of Robert, but obviously we'll keep him as a colonist. We also had a second bed set up in Carson's room for Robert. I think this looks like a really quality little medieval children's room, even though they've got a bit of a modern looking desk at the back. When the raiders from our quest arrived, they would prepare for a little before the large spider from earlier decided to try do our job for us. Not that it did a lot of damage. Oh, and you saw nothing here, right? The Onlastians would begin their assault on us, so we'd have our warriors prepare in our new towers, which I must say came in extremely helpful here. We were doing just fine defending when the second group dropped in, which made me think we may have been not more than we can chew. Only for another twist, a pack of man-hunting cougars had decided to come in, but they just attacked the raiders instead of us. This kept our columnists from getting attacked too much before the second wave of the raid came in, and we dispatched of them really quickly. Bryn was really showing off her new wand, making some amazing shots and taking down a bunch of enemies. Same as Ernest, as per usual though. I'm thinking some of these wooden walls need to be swapped out soon though. Our reward would come in for taking on the raiders, and we decided to give the new wand to Vellum, as I thought he's a priest, but he may need to defend himself at some point. We would get a growth moment for Dux, where he turned 10 years old, increasing his passions in medical and crafting, plus gaining a minor passion in construction. He would also gain the Valiant trait, as he stands up for people who need it the most, while attempting to have a couple of Griffin tame by knocking them down, tending to and rescuing them repeatedly. We got this notification that a warrant has been put out for Bryn. Now, I didn't mention that I put the simple warrants mod in, as I wasn't sure we were actually going to use it, but this seems to have brought up some implications, so thought I'd mention it now. We would also then get a growth moment for Carlson, giving him more social passion, as well as some plants and artistic. It took me a bit to realise abstinent was a good trait, but that's eventually what he got. I should note that this is also the point in the video where we had reached the fortress, so everybody is now on their way back from here on out. Next up, we had an attack from House of Celestia, which I didn't record as it was a pretty easy fight, although most raids at this point are. They did, however, light a massive fire which burnt down Kikyo and Chant's house. We would be careful in controlling the fire, however, preventing it from spreading to our bridge. During the raid, we did capture several of the attackers though. Those that survive while imprisoned will be enslaved or recruited. It looks like our little prison is really filling up as well, so perhaps next episode we get to work on a better prison. But I'm not surprised that the prison filled up, as we were really pounded by raid after raid during the time my people were away. I'm not exactly sure why we got so many raids. I didn't change the storyteller settings or anything like that. It just seems Urubu decided to attack us at once. And throughout most of these raids, it was really Mei Ernest defending us with his magic, which, to be honest, has gotten a little bit boring for me. So I'm really keen to get to work on this wall in the north to just sort of change up the way that we're defending a little bit. Rather than just sending in the spirit wolves every time, we'll have to hide in the towers and do damage to our opponents differently. But moving on, we would finish our research into draconic incubation, since Kras has laid her egg on the road. We finished this research pretty quickly, so we'll be able to build an incubator when they get back. We would also work to spruce up our rooms a little bit with this cougar rug, courtesy of the cougars that had attacked us earlier in the episode. And speaking of attacks, we had another one a little bit later, that being a siege, that I got this called Kemen from, that we'll put in our tower. I also noticed that we are really beginning to have a massive corpse problem out the front of the base, so I built an extra furnace up here to cremate the remains of any raiders. And with all this work that's going to need to be done to clean up the corpses, it's a good thing that our people have arrived back safe and sound. Although I'm sure it won't be long until they're back out there continuing our story. Not long after everybody returned though, we had another caravan arrive, that being a scholar from the Kingdom of Borealis, who we'd buy multiple weapon schematics from to continue developing our military technology. And also on the topic of developing our defences, we would get to work on the northern wall once again, beginning to remove the wooden bridges, replacing them with the granite flagstone bridges that we researched last episode, I believe. We ran out of granite during this process, but we'll continue working on these next episode, as they're a pretty big upgrade that I'm keen to get done. But in closing out today's episode, I will present you with all of the prisoners that we've recruited in the background today, that being Shaman, Makaim, Chud, and Quillith? Not sure how to say that. They'll all be joining our outposts, while Mythor, who is now known as Chalcedon, thanks to a comment from MuckMuck3403, who actually gave us this name for Chud, but since he's being moved out to the outpost, I thought I'd reassign it. He is another Villanir, same as Gillies, although he in particular has a massive animals ability, which is part of their xenotype. So we're going to be putting him to doing some good work, taming animals, and all that sort of stuff for us. But with that, we're going to wrap up today's episode. I feel like this one's been a bit all over the place for me, but hopefully you guys have still enjoyed. I'm really working on trying to put together a proper upload schedule where videos come out at the same time every week, but at the moment we work, it's very busy, so it can be a bit difficult. Nevertheless, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Catch you later.